Hello and welcome to the opening round of the fourth season of the Formula Super Series. We're here from the Miami International Autodrome, a relatively new track here on the iRacing service, and I think we're going to be in for quite the extravagant set of racing here tonight. 2 heats and a feature tonight. Sophie, what do you think we're in for?
I think we are in for a high-speed game of chess, Jacob. We are watching the Super Formula, which is the second fastest class of car on the service, and we're going to be seeing it in a race that requires a pit stop. There's going to be strategy at play, and there's going to be a game of chicken of how fast, how much do you want to push with these walls. As you can see around the Miami International Autodrome, there's a lot of section of track where the walls are right at the limit, right at the white line. There's very narrow sections. It's all going to be about playing games, playing risk, playing the strategy, be the person in victory lane at the end of these races, Jacob.
Yeah, it's certainly a number of very, very difficult things to tackle all at once. Obviously, it's a relatively new track for the drivers. This car may be new to some. It's a car that very much wants you to commit to every aspect of your driving of it, especially given the amount of downforce that this car carries. That is ultimately how it's making all the speed through the corners here as we're kind of riding outboard with Titus Sherlock, runner-up from the previous season of Season 3 here in the Formula Super Series. Big bounce over that hairpin curve as he's getting, or the chicane curve rather, getting warmed up, ready to go here tonight. We've got a quick question in chat from the Luke Mansky Racing Esports boss man. I believe that's going to be Luke Mansky himself. The P and the A are for a pro and an amateur class, so drivers are split up amongst two separate classes, if you will, even if they're in the same machine and both utilizing the SF23, that Super Formula machine, taking from the regional Super Formula series in Japan. So we've got kind of a split grid, if you will, and we'll see how that kind of materializes over the course of the season for each of those individual championships.
Yes, as we're seeing the cars making their early laps. They get 3 laps in qualifying to set their best time. Track conditions right now around 39.4 degrees Celsius or like 102 Fahrenheit. There is an eastern wind about 25 kilometers per hour, so there's some strong gusts of wind that can definitely catch you out. But it's ultimately an overcast day, Jacob. So the track temp should not climb too much as we go through this qualifying session.
Yeah, nice heavy cloud coverage here in Miami, Florida, riding around the Hard Rock Stadium here with Titus Sherlock. He gets out to the end of this backstretch here. And just to clarify, we've got single grid here, so it's standing starts, much like we saw with the Formula Indy Series earlier on. Well, I guess towards the end of last year with P1's coverage of that series. So it's everybody gridded up all at once, standing starts, which, as we well know, all the cars being stacked right on top of each other, having to go from a standstill, can bring about some carnage and off into turn number 1.
For sure, Jacob, and it especially gets tricky when you remember this is an incredibly fast car with an incredible amount of torque. It's very easy to get wheel spin. In fact, to launch this car properly, you really need to be in a higher gear. So there's a lot of technique to it, and ultimately that torque is why I suspect we're going to see a lot of people struggle with getting the power down, particularly in a lot of the slow speed corners that you find here in Miami. I want to note as you're watching Titus Sherlock really using all of the track there, using every bit of the road that is legally allowed for Titus to use, as Titus currently goes purple in that 311 Eclipse competition machine. But he is using all of the track, really making sure to square up every corner, abuse all of his track out as he can, so that he can really get the fastest lap time possible.
Yeah, that's kind of been the big calling card for this track as it's made its rounds over the course of the couple weeks it's been out here on iRacing, is that there's a lot of track that's usable that you wouldn't immediately think is usable. You know, you've kind of got painted boundary lines, if you will, but there's still a lot of kind of the teal areas you can utilize, get very heavy usage of the curbs. We're going to watch Titus navigate towards this kind of iconic chicane here on the back half of the track. And he's up in the air over those curbs, utilizing as much of the track as possible. The off-track kind of limit there is where they've got the big orange bollard, if you will, that keeps the drivers from using just a little bit too much of that extra area here. It is custom fixed setups for the series here. I believe they're utilizing a single tweaked set for everybody in the field here from the iRacing defaults. Kind of use those as baselines, tweak them to the liking of the series. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. See who can kind of adapt to the nature of the car. We're seeing lap times right now sitting in the low 137s on the fast end here. Sherlock goes purple once again, 137.250 on his second of the 3 laps here.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight right now, we're seeing a wide spread in time, a wide gap, if you will. Titus Sherlock currently set the fastest lap of 137.2. It is almost a full half second back to his teammate on the Eclipse competition group, Jeremy Fairbairn. And then further back still, almost a full second between Titus Sherlock and the FIS champion, Alex Chilcutt, who ran a 138.1. And then even further back to the Luke Mansky driver, Logan Edwards, all the way back to seeing towards the bottom end of the grid, people who are in the 40s. So there's a wide gulf in the pace that people are able to put down with the professional and amateur classes. And that's going to come up in the longer feature race for sure, Jacob. As Titus Sherlock goes around as he was abusing that chicane way too much there. As you were saying, Jacob, I was going to call that out eventually because, yes, you are hopping that car. This is a very torquey motor. If you go to try to put the power down, you could very easily spin there. We saw Logan Edwards make that mistake in the Indian NXT competition, or sorry, Indian X competition, and Titus Sherlock also falling afoul of that cut there for that back half of the track.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned Logan Edwards as we've got him on the screen now, getting to the conclusion of his qualifying run. He'll stop that SF23, but we saw, that curb catch out a number of drivers in IL-15 Indy Next competition earlier on this season. And I think that's actually a good point of comparison to make for maybe viewers here that are a bit newer to this machine, is it kind of feels in line with more of the road to Indy cars like we've seen with the Indy Next. Maybe not quite so much the Indy car. The Indy car does still kind of, at least in my head and in my humble opinion, kind of stand off alone as its own unique animal, particularly with that new hybrid system that's been recently introduced in the sim. It's got its own set of quirks, if you will, but very torquey is the best way to probably to describe this machine for sure, as you try to get it to maximize corner speed, utilizing every little bit of the tracks possible.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Titus Sherlock was really pushing the boundaries on those track limits goes a long way in why he was so able to put down that purple lap, that 137.250. And that's currently still sitting him on the pole position as other times are rolling in. We see Cody Claiborne is still out on track. Pedro Mojica, as well as the FIS champion Alex Chilcutt, all still out on track, Jacob.
Kevin Tombo will round off his qualifying run here. He'll line up currently provisionally 6th. Solid run for Tomba here in the pro class. Still got about a minute and a half left to go here in qualifying. We'll see if people are still getting in their last lap or two. We'll see how these drivers are getting gridded up for the heats here. So we do have 2 heat races. I believe the field gets split in some fashion. Would that be correct, Sophie?
I believe actually they do not get split, Jacob. What I believe was explained is that the heat races will actually set an inverse grid. So when the heat race that we're about to witness, you will have where the top 10 finishers in that get bonus points, and then that field, if you're 10th, you're on pole for the feature. If you finish 10th, or sorry, if you finish first, you're starting in 10th place. That is what ultimately is the end result of the heat, Jacob.
So I thought I maybe saw there was 2 heat races. Is it maybe like best result of both, or is it kind of a combined thing that's inverted, or?
I cannot speak to that, Jacob. I don't see the second heat in the lineup, but what I do believe is Zach Falm, the league administrator, explained is that yes, there is an inverted grid from the heat results in the feature race.
All right, well, we've got ourselves the grid for that heat race here. Would like to quickly shout out the series sponsors in both VRS and the Sim Racing Warehouse. We'll get their messaging in here shortly, following the starting grid and kind of that initial lap as drivers are getting onto the grid here now. So it will be Titus Sherlock on the pole with a 137.250 alongside Jeremy Fairbrain in the second spot. Alex Chilcutt, Formula Indy Series champion, will line up third alongside Luke Mansky Racing Esports Logan Edwards in fourth. Christian Jasper will line up fifth alongside Nate Sifker. Kevin Tomba will line up seventh alongside Jeff Groff. Drew Such and Kyle Allen will round out the top 10. Working our way down further, we've got Brian Daly in 11th, Barrett Wolf in 12th, Sarah Guerrera in 13th, Logan Spath 14th, Griffin Yellen in 15th, Cody Claiborne in 16th, Nick Goyette in 17th, Dakota DeMage in 18th, Zach Falm will line up 19th, Pedro Mojica will be 20th, and then the rest of the grid will be Yayi Montel, Alex Berg, and Dan Marrera in 23rd. And I believe we've got everybody out there ready to get underway here. Standing starts here. First time I've had to commentate one of these. And
yes, we hear the engines rev.
Green flag, green flag.
And they are underway. Logan Spath had a terrible start in the back. As we're underway. Big round junk in turn number 1. Christian Jasper is around. We see several other cars trying to take avoiding action. Kevin Tomba. What a heartbreak for him after that qualifying effort, missing a front wing.
Yeah, we've caught Jasper missing the rear cover on that SF23. We saw Titus Sherlock go wide. Oh, Jasper's in the wall and around. Might have been more significant damage than we saw there. That'll be likely over for him in the heat here. Working down towards the back half of the track now.
Not the way you want to start your season, but we currently have a fight up at the front. Nate Siefker looking to try and get around that driver of Titus Sherlock. That would be for third place, because it looks like Logan Edwards had a brilliant start where we were focusing on the chaos in the back. But now Logan dropping back into third, the two Eclipse competition cars, as they snake their way through that section. A cheeky little move there from Drew Schultz, as he tries to get around Nate Siefker through that tight corner. So now onto the back straightaway. There is an overtake with the Super Formula car, Jacob. Ultimately, they have 200 seconds to use, but they have to have a gap between when they use it of 100 seconds. That's over a lap, or roughly a lap here.
I believe we may have heard a car skid off into, Byron Daly's around on the edge of the backstretch here, heading off into that final corner. He's missing the right rear on that SF23. That'll put him out of contention. So two cars currently in the pit lane with meatball flags. That'll be Jasper and Daly following a chaotic first lap here, but we're starting to settle into kind of a bit more of a rhythm now as these two Nexus competition cars are up at the front of the field.
Yeah, it looked like Daly just unfortunately locked the rear into that last corner and just spun it around. Tough break for him. Never fun when you have a race end that early. And Titus Sherlock is once again back up at the front. His teammate Jamie Fairburn right behind him, followed by the Luke Mansky Esports racer of Logan Edwards. That is your top three. Your highest ranked amateur is Kyle Allen in that 999 machine, currently sitting back in 8th place.
Now we've got Such and Edwards side by side. Such is going to get the position as they head off into that chicane. They're going to get to the back straightaway here. We'll see if Edwards opts to try to take a look back at Such down the back straightaway here. But as we kind of settle into the rhythm here, we'd like to thank the series sponsors here for the Formula Super Series this season. We've got the likes of VRS, the virtual racing school, here sponsoring the series. VRS helps sim racers get faster by providing cutting-edge hardware and high-performance hardware built with insights from both real-life racers and top sim racing professionals. I can personally attest to their products. Basically, my entire setup is VRS gear, and I've used both their telemetry software alongside some of their setups over the course of time. They've definitely got some quality things going on there. And then the Sim Racing Warehouse is, if you're looking to save some money with great prices and no sales tax, Sim Racing Warehouse is your U.S.-based shop for all your needs. Plus, for a limited time, you can save with a 5% off coupon. Just type in SRW House into the coupon code section on checkout and save even more. That will be in the description down below. That is capital SRW, lowercase house for the coupon code. Feel free to check them out. Always good to have some new places to pick up some quality gear. We're working lap 3 here. Chaos.
I want to highlight the fact Logan Spath looked to not have damage, doesn't have a meatball, but found his way into the pit lane. Another thing to note, looks like Nate Seifert, unfortunately, seems to be falling back down the order, as he's currently fighting with Griffin Yellen, and that is over P7, P6. Looks like Seifert has some nose damage, possibly, on that number 2 machine.
Yeah, if we get zoomed in on that SF23, he's got quite a bit of damage on kind of the center portion of the wing and the nose cone here, likely slowing him down a good bit, but we'll see if he's able to kind of hold ground here in the 6th spot as we continue to get working towards the halfway mark of the heat here.
Yeah, currently some excellent battles right now. Alex Chilcutt, the FIS champion in that number 6 machine, has Logan Edwards right behind him. And there isn't much of a gap between Chilcutt and Schultz in the 3rd place. A lot to play for, but there's also some strategy involved in this. If I am anyone in this group right now, yes, you get bonus points for doing well in the heat race. But ultimately, if you are Logan Edwards in 5th, you're going to be starting 5th. You're not going to be that hurt by that inverse grid versus the likes of a Titus Sherlock, who will get maximum points should things stand as they do. But we'll also be starting 10th, Jacob, in the middle of all that chaos.
Yeah, close call between Such and Chilcutt working to the end of the back straightaway here. They were side by side, had to kind of navigate the cars back single file as we work back towards this back half once again. Such is having a bit of a struggle getting the power down off the corners, and it seems like Chilcutt's like right on the back of him every corner around here.
Right, and as she shoots is on the button, you see that flashing light above the driver. Meanwhile, Chilcutt not using the overtake. Possibly he's already used it, possibly he doesn't need to use it, because he is launching a look down the inside into the final hairpin, shoots, locks up, runs wide, and Chilcutt is through.
Yeah, cool, calm, and collected from Chilcutt as he worked his way past Such. They're going to be side by side heading into turn 1 here. Bit of contact between the two.
Right, but you see Chilcutt has the line, ultimately gets the drive off the corner. Oh, they touch, they spin! Chilcutt around, Schultz has damage. Logan Edwards looks like he made it through cleanly. Chilcutt is recovering, but ultimately might lose a spot to Nate Seifert.
Yeah, they were
chaos.
Yeah, they were getting awfully close together just about every corner on the course. That last lap by was seemingly only a matter of time until some contact was made, but unfortunately Chilcutt will go around. He'll fall to 6th as it stands, and he's now kind of in the thick of things with this pack of cars from 5th all the way down to 9th with Kyle Allen rounding out this group.
Right, and now we see Logan Edwards looking to pounce, looking around the outside of Schutz. Shoots his push to pass, is on the recovery. Shoots, slots in behind Edwards. What does that mentally do to you as a driver if you're Logan Edwards knowing that you just saw contact between one of the drivers that you just passed? As we see, they navigate through that tight, twisty section under the freeway overpass.
Well,
Mansky Eastman's machine puts his power down and gets out of the way and starts to launch off that corner.
Well, I could certainly tell you as kind of a recent example, I was running the Indy Next from Interlagos last week, and the two cars battling for the lead ahead of me coming off of turn number 3, I believe, made contact on the inside of the track, and I skirted by on the outside, and I was like, well, that was my race. You know, sometimes you can feel a little bit of a sigh of relief, is that, you know, it's particularly in the case of with how many laps left to go here, there's kind of a substantial gap that the likes of Chilcutt, or if Such has some damage here, that's going to be tough to navigate. But at the same time, you want to have those close battles, those tight races. So it's, as much as it is kind of luck going your way a little bit and being kind of in control best of your race situation, you also want to have the quality competition from start to finish. And it's unfortunate when contact kind of happens relatively early on in the going here.
Right, I just want to highlight Titus Sherlock had the fastest lap of the race, but Jeremy Fairburn has snatched that away. Current fastest lap of the race is 1:38.9 from the second of the Eclipse car in that number 67 machine. Fortunately, he is a little bit too far back off that 3:11 machine. We've got just about 5 minutes remaining in this race, Jacob, and gap is about 3.5 seconds between the two Eclipse competition machines.
Yeah, it looks like the closest battle on track now is actually going to be the battle for 7th between Kyle Allen and Jeff Groth. Kyle's running in the amateur class. He's the highest driver currently in the amateur class right now. Groth running in pro. But it still looks like there's a nice solid battle through a good portion of the field, as I believe Barrett Wolf's under fire from Cody Claiborne. Zach Falm's kind of in that group as well. So good to see that even in the spite of the field getting relatively spread out, there's basically a race for everybody out here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot of competition, a lot of depth in this field, a lot of accomplished drivers. You have your regulars, if you're familiar with other broadcasts here on P1 Broadcasting, such as a Logan Edwards, but then you also have regulars in these Formula Racing series like your Titus Sherlock, like your Nate Seifgerts, like your Jeremy Fairburns. And this is an incredibly stacked field, a lot of incredibly gifted drivers like Kevin Tomba, who's unfortunately had some rotten luck, but is doing an admirable job with the wounded machine that they have.
Yeah, we've actually got Tomba up on the screen now. He's missing the whole front nose cone of that SF23, but he's making it work. He's running 15th, so he's clearly managed to figure out how to drive a car with very little front downforce here from Miami. He's making it work.
Yeah, and there is an excellent battle between Jeff Groff and the number 25 machine. Both him and Kyle Allen on their overtake as they head into the braking zone, giving each other plenty of space, plenty of respectful racing here as the track switch up. Looks like Allen, oh, they touch! I spoke too soon! They are both in the wall. Day likely done for both drivers. Commentators' curves, Jacob.
Yeah, that section very, very tight. It kind of falls away on the outer edge of the track and gets very slippy.
More trouble! More trouble in the freeway section there. That chicane. Barrett Wolf clipped the inside wall, ripped the whole left side of that machine off. The number 21 car done for the day.
Yeah, we'll get the replay on that one as we caught his car just into the wall. Gonna make contact. Ooh, he does make contact with that inside wall heading towards the chicane. Might have just turned in a little too early. That'll send him directly into the subsequent wall. Tough break for the driver of the 21 machine.
And an interesting story developing here now. Guess who is caught back up to Drew Schultz, or Schutz? That is right. It is Alex Chilcutt, the FIS champion, in that 6 machine, hounding that orange number 28. So things are kicking off here in the bottom half of the field. Titus Sherlock once again settling a purple lap with a 1:38.3. Chilcutt's looking to the outside. Both drivers on their button. that Nexus Esports machine looks to have the advantage into the corner as Schutz locks up, struggles to get the power down, sliding, snaking, but ultimately Chilcutt has the position.
Yeah, you have to imagine Such had to maybe check up just a little bit there to make sure that he didn't run into the back of Chilcutt heading down into that corner at the end of the back straight there. It's going to build up a pretty big gap between the two now. We'll see if Chilcutt's able to kind of get away and maybe start to reel in Logan Edwards with these last couple laps remaining.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, that's still the closest battle on track between those two, as again we have seen a lot of action here. Ultimately, there has just been so much to cover during this race. We see a couple of cars still circling around with damage. Ultimately, right now, Nick Gayotte in the number 12 machine looks to be the driver who would benefit from that inverse grid. Then we have Zach Baum in P9. Those two would likely be your front row as it stands right now with the inverse grid.
Yeah, sitting just towards the kind of the back portion of the top 10 with Goyette and Falm. We've got Falm up on the screen now. He's working his way kind of through the marina section, I believe they're calling it. This front, very twisty section of corners. We'll actually ride on board with the league administrator here for the Formula Super Series and see how he's navigating with a admittedly damaged SF23, but you can kind of see just how much these drivers are having to really, really work the wheel getting onto the power here.
Yeah, this is a tricky track to drive this car on. I believe both of us did some laps just to get a feel for it, Jacob, and it's just so easy to unsettle the car on some of these higher curves. Really just be a little too aggressive with the loud pedal and find yourself pointing in the wrong direction or into one of these hard concrete walls.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned earlier how torquey this car is, and when you're kind of using a lot of, I've noticed particularly with these more downforce heavy machines, as Titus Sherlock goes purple as we head on to the final lap here, Falm working towards the back straightaway here, is that these high downforce cars with those torquey engines, it's very, very difficult to get a sense of just how much slip you can get away with in the tire, especially when you start to put the power down. Just because you're so used to, at speed, having those wings at your disposal that kind of keep you a bit more glued to the track. So when you don't have the aerodynamic downforce keeping you to the track, it's much more difficult to gauge the tire.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also just difficult to figure out how much grip you're going to have as this whole session goes along. You're starting to see more and more of the track get rubbered in, and as that track gets rubbered in, it's oddly enough going to have a little less grip, a little less that you can get away with, especially as the track is now cooling down. It's gone from that 39 Celsius track temperature around 33 Celsius. It's gone from about 102 degrees Fahrenheit. It's now cooling to being in the 90s. That's doesn't seem like much, but it does really make a difference, and it kind of explains why we saw Sherlock go purple that last lap. The track is conversely gripping up because of the lower temperature, but also it's getting rubbered in, so you'll start seeing a little bit more sliding from other people.
Yeah, rubber coming down, fuel going out of the cars, track temp settling in. 80 in the air, 94 on the track, about 60% humidity with a 15-mile-an-hour south wind, so certainly some tricky conditions, but Sherlock has conquered them here so far tonight as he'll take the win in the heat here. Logan Edwards will finish second. Fairburn will be third. Alex Chilcutt will roll across in fourth. And Drew Such will round out the top five as we get drivers continuing to circulate towards the start-finish line here to round out the heat.
Yeah, what a action-packed heat we saw, Jacob. So much chaos, so much contact. The contact at the start. There was fighting over the podium positions with Chilcutt and Schutz, ultimately benefiting Logan Edwards, who came home in third. Just all in all, excellent heat.
Well, Edwards actually made it up to second. We must have missed the the potential issues for Fairburn as he fell to third. So we'll certainly have to catch up maybe later on in the evening if we can get either of them up in the interview and maybe figure out what happened.
Oh, it looks like Logan was just getting was a little bit quicker. Ultimately, managed to pull a pass into the final hairpin on the last lap there.
Well, good on him. Better late than never. And I'm not quite sure where we're winding up here. Are we getting another heat, or is this the aforementioned warm-up?
This is the warm-up. Yes, this is the warm-up. It looks like they have, I guess there's a requirement to have a second heat in the iRacing session that was throwing us off there for a second. But yes, they're currently in the warm-up, Jacob. So, chance for everyone to kind of shake off their nerves. For some of those people who had troubles early, like your Brian Dailies, able to just kind of shake off the rust, work up your confidence a little bit in 5 minutes, and then ultimately we have our 40-minute feature race here in the Formula Super Series, brought to you by VRS and Sim Racing Warehouse.
Now we're back out with Zach Fahlm in the warm-up here. We'll watch the cars circulate here as drivers get their bearings as they get ready to go for that feature event. Kind of talk us through the format for that, Sophie, as I've heard it's a bit interesting. It's 40 minutes, but the drivers are required to pit after 10 laps or 20 minutes.
Yes, whichever of those comes first is ultimately when you're allowed to pit. So the series is requiring a single pit stop where you need to change your tires. Those Yokohama Advan tires need to be changed at some point during the race. Ultimately, though, you're not allowed to change them within the first 10 laps or the first 20 minutes, whichever gets cleared first. There is a potential for full course cautions should a major incident arise and iRacing throw that. At that point, likely the 20-minute mark will be hit first, and as soon as whatever mark gets hit first, that 10 lap or 20 minutes, you can dive onto pit lane, change your tires, and go. Ultimately, whoever can execute their pit stop the best will be the benefactor of their strategy choices.
And that's kind of something that's a bit unique, contrary to what we see on the iRacing official side of things, is that iRacing official side of things doesn't have the opportunity for a full course yellow on a road course. Even if you get, say, a massive track blocker at Bathurst, that race stays green and you got to find your way through the traffic jam, if you will. But there is opportunity for somebody to maybe take a benefit from pitting at the right place at the right time should a yellow come out here in the Formula Super Series.
For sure, Jacob, and I've only seen a couple of cautions thrown in those situations, typically for track blockers, all of them at street circuits like here at the Miami International Autodrome.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that it kind of rides the line between purpose-built and street track, if you will. Good portion of it is a permanent facility. There are sections of it, likely the outer edges of it. There's kind of shortened versions of this track that stay kind of in use throughout the year and have a bit more of a permanent structure. As you see kind of the freeway on or off ramp onto the right on the backstretch here, that's part of the reason why they're not utilizing that portion of the course all year round, because there's cars that drive around here for pedestrian use.
Yes, one of the main features of this track is that Hard Rock Stadium. That is the home of the Miami Dolphins NFL team. This is an area that sees regular use both as a racetrack and as parking lot and other activities.
Will come down the pit lane here. We'll catch out with Kevin Tomba. He'll work his way past Logan Edwards through the opening portion of the course here.
Yeah, one thing I want to note, I've seen a couple of drivers practice their standing starts. Seems that some people a little disappointed with how their races went from the sprint, and want to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes in the feature.
Yeah, that's kind of something I've heard is a bit of a skill or an artistic expression, if you will, is those standing starts, kind of getting the power down from a standstill, if you will, especially in these machines that have a lot more power to them. You know, we've seen it, or well, we talk about it in the likes of this car. I know there's a number of people out there that have enjoyed the Formula Dallara IR01, kind of the fictionalized V10 powered car iRacing put out a number of years ago. And that, too, kind of has that very, very torquey engine, very difficult to get the power down. Kind of have to sit it in many gears up away from the first one, if you will, to keep the power from really sliding you out and doing you into a spin.
Oh, seeing some extracurricular activities here during the warm-up as we're about to get into our feature, as we're going to get the grid set. Jacob, let's start going down through the starting order as we start to see cars gridding up for this 40-minute feature.
Well, it appears that I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way here. We've got Goyette on the pole here following the invert. Zach Falm will be second. Dakota DeMage will be third. Cody Claiborne will be fourth. Griffin Yellen fifth. Drew Such will be sixth. Alex Chilcutt in seventh. Jeremy Fairburn in eighth. Logan Edwards in ninth. And Titus Sherlock will be 10th following his win in the heat. Dan Morera will be 11th. Pedro Mojica will be 12th. Kevin Tomba 13th. Yayi Montiel in 14th. Sarah Guerrera in 15th. Kyle Allen in 16th. Jeff Groff, Barrett Wolf, Siefker, Spath, Berg, Daly, Jasper. And we're going to get under green here relatively quickly.
Green flag.
Yes, and we see the big fanning out throughout the field. Start to see the comers and goers already. Chilcutt deep on the brakes. Runs wide, some contact in the back, but so far it looks like everyone has all their cars in one piece.
Yeah, we just caught back to Logan Edwards, who's fallen a couple spots already off the start here, but kind of in the thick of it here in the middle of the pack as we're watching cars go side by side. There's a car off in the... Not quite sure. Oh, that's Fairburn. He went off in the teal there. Car around. It's going to be Tomba getting onto the back straightaway. I'm not sure if he made contact with the wall there. Try to catch that
No, but
if we can.
Sarah Guerrera's missing a front wing, has a very beat-up nose cone. So likely she's going to want to maybe either try to stick it out for the first 10 laps and then just get replaced at her pit stop or come in. Kevin Tomba also has front wing damage. Seems I spoke a little too soon with how clean things were being.
Yeah, it seems. Oh boy, got another car around heading into the chicane here.
Yeah, that is Alex Berg in the 98 machine. Looks like that car is undamaged. Up at the front, it's Schutz, currently leading Nick Coyote, who was the outside pole sitter. Or sorry, the pole sitter given the invert. And immediately we see Titus Sherlock already up as Coyote runs wide in turn number 1. Sherlock up to P2, wasting no time carving through the rest of the field, trying to find their way to make it a win in the sprint and win in the feature.
Yeah, he started 10th. He's up to second after just one lap. Huge, huge moves for Sherlock working his way through the field as his teammate in Fairburn will be following him down the backstretch here. Working lap number 2.
Oh, and it looks like we have 2 cars already out of this race or on pit lane. Looks like we have Logan Spath out again, as well as Ryan Daly. Fortunately, double DNF for both drivers. Looks like as they headed into the start of the second lap, looks like Pedro Mojica ran into the back of Daly, who then got into the back of Logan into turn number 1, and that's day done for both drivers.
Yeah, Very, very, very tight action here as we're kind of watching the battle from 6th to about 10th or 11th here between Falm, Goyette, Edwards, Yellen, Siefker down to the 10th spot.
Edwards, yeah, we see Edwards going around Griffin Yellen. Now going to be working on Nick Goyette. Sorry, not. Yes, Goyette has fallen back to 7th after starting on the pole position following the invert.
And Titus Sherlock's all over the back of Such already.
Yeah, he wasted no time trying to get up there, ultimately.
Heavy on the power down the backstretch here. He'll look to the inside.
Yes. As Sherlock is on the button, making sure he gets all the speed down the straightaway. Trying to drag Jeremy Fairburn up with him. Jeremy Fairburn benefiting from the draft. Looks like maybe Fairburn will also try to get... Shoots, manages to hold it, but runs wide. Struggles to get the power down a little bit, but ultimately move the Eclipse cars back up into 1-2 running order as they pound over those curves through the tight freeway section. Down onto the long back straightaway. We see Shoots is now the one on the button. The other two drivers forced to recharge. And we'll see that orange 28 look to the inside of the 67 Eclipse competition machine.
He'll take the inside down into the hairpin here. Fairburn's going to run wide, locks it up and parks it.
Has to back up, lets Chilcutt through too, but ultimately doesn't lose anything more than that.
And Chilcutt's going to look to the outside in turn 1 here.
Right, and remember again, those two made contact during the sprint race.
And Titus Sherlock's just grinning a big old smile as he's watching cars kind of duke it out behind him here. That's given him the opportunity to kind of start to skirt away a little bit here as Chilcutt's going to go off just a little bit there in the teal once more. Might have to serve a bit of a slowdown penalty there, not quite sure. He is starting to fall back off of Such here for 2nd, so that may have been the case. We'll see if he can rebound here, working on the way through the rest of this lap.
For sure, and that last lap, it was Chilcutt who went purple, running a 1:39.2. So Chilcutt definitely going to be on the charge if he's able to mentally reset and refocus.
Yeah, Logan Edwards is going to make it by Dakota DeMage down the back straightaway here. That'll move Edwards to 5th. Then you've got Griffin Yellen under fire from Cody Claiborne. They're side-by-side heading towards that chicane.
Yes, Claiborne in the car with the, I believe that's an Uma Mustame on the nose cone there. Able to get the move around Yellen. Yellen looks to have a little bit of damage on his front wing, possibly.
If we look off the back of Cody Claiborne, there does appear at least to be an anime girl of some variety on that SF23. Likely the horse girls from the iconic Pretty Derby game that people have been playing of recent. That's a fun one for him.
Yes, and we see Chilcutt once again on the back of Drew Schutz.
Working lap 5 of 25 here. And you can see just how much these drivers are committing to the very, very inner workings of the track here, utilizing every little inch of it, just trying to keep as much speed as possible here as Such is going to run wide. They're going to be side by side off the corner here.
Yes, and it looks like Chilcutt has the move done. No push to pass required. But it's a long straightaway as we see Schutz benefiting from the draft, pulling up along the outside, likely to clear before the corner. As Chilcutt dives underneath, absolutely sending it, running wide, struggling to get the power down. Schutz has to kind of give ground a little bit through this tight, twisty section. Ultimately, this on getting the power down as they head onto the long back straightaway. Both drivers, I presume, will be on that pushed pass.
Yeah, looks like Such might be having to recharge it here. Might have used it on the previous straightaway. They're going to work their way into that hairpin towards the end of the lap here. Siefker made it past Zach Falm that time around. That'll move him to 7th. He'll be looking to maybe hunt down Dakota Demage for 6th now, as Sherlock will go purple with a 138.826.
Yes, and I want to highlight that while Chilcutt and Schutz have been duking it out, Jeremy Fairburn has started to eat back into that despite his costly mistake earlier. The more those two fight, the more Titus Sherlock is going to pull away, and the closer the other Eclipse competition car gets to these gentlemen here fighting over 2nd place.
Yeah, Jeremy's just about 2.5 seconds off of Such for 3rd. We'll see if that gap continues to close as we're a little over the 5th way mark, rather. I was going to say quarter of the way through, but we're working lap 6 of 25 here. And Logan Edwards isn't too far behind Fairburn as well. So we'll see if he can work his way forward.
Yes, and he did manage to get to the back of them during the sprint race and was able to overtake him on that final lap. So don't count out the Luke Mansky esports driver just yet.
Yeah, maybe he's figured something out that works on the longer run. You know, he's got more laps to play with here. Maybe that gives him some more opportunity to maybe play a little bit of strategy on top of that extra long run speed he seemed to show in the sprint.
Sure, as we see Titus Sherlock going purple again, 138.8 from the Eclipse competition driver in the 311 machine. Just utter dominance so far from him. Did not waste any time, despite the fact that he started 10th on the grid due to the inversion. Found his way up from 10th to 2nd on the first lap, and now is leading and streaking away from Alex Chilcutt, who again is your reigning FIS champion. He is no slouch.
Yeah, Siefker makes the move on Demage, heading down the back straightaway into that hairpin for 6th. He's about five or so seconds adrift to Logan Edwards for 5th, so that's going to be at least a bit more of a substantial gap to have to make up here. But we'll see if he's able to cut into that over the course of the rest of the run here. I believe that's going to put the closest battle on track down to Goyette, Falm, and Claiborne for 8th, 9th, and 10th. They're all within about a half second of one another here. And we'll see if they're able to give us some more quality action here that we've seen throughout the feature here tonight.
And it looks to me like right now that is also, not only is that a battle for position on track, it's also a battle for the best ranked amateur driver, as both Goyette and Claiborne are in the amateur classes. Falm is not. It looks like Claiborne nearly loses it as he tries to force a move on Zach Falm, the league admin. Ultimately has to reset and refocus and hope he did not scrub the tires too badly as they make their way through that tight technical chicane section.
Yeah, I think it was Falm that hit the inside curve at the end of the backstretch there the hardest and kind of bounced up into the air. That might have given Claiborne a bit of caution about trying to make that move, and he'll lose a little bit of time here to the back of Falm as a result. We'll see if he can regather, regroup, heading on to lap number 8 here. I believe we're just going to catch Griffin Yellen making the move on Dan Marrera for 12th. There's another 3 cars under a blanket, 12th, 13th, and 14th with Yellen, Groff, and Marrera.
Marrera is in the amateur class, while Groff and Yellen are both in the pro class.
And it looks
Yellen looks to run wide there. Ultimately has Groff just sliding through on the inside there through that complex section. Really, ultimately, it comes down to just having the commitment. As you see a slow car off to the side there, that is Montel in the 7 car. Ultimately, they're a lap down. They've been having a bunch of struggles there. And that number 7 machine, not the night he'd be looking for.
Yeah, we just...
Yellen and Groff now duking it back out once again.
Yeah, we just caught the battle back for 8th, 9th, and 10th between Claiborne, Fulm, and Goyette. Claiborne's moved up to the 8th spot, overtaking both cars at the end of the back straightaway here. We'll see if he's able to start to claw his way forward toward Dakota DeMage for 7th.
Yes, an excellent run from Cody Claiborne in that number 31 machine. Currently not able to use that overtake because of the recharge. Once again, they have the overtake button at their disposal. They have 200 seconds they're allowed to use, but once you use it, you have to let it recharge for 100 seconds. And your average lap time around here is just around minute 40 seconds. So ultimately, that 100 seconds means that you're only going to be using this about once per lap.
Yeah, let's get a kind of a bit of a figure on what drivers are working with here as we're navigating just past a third of the way through here on that push to pass figure. So Sherlock sits on 177. Edwards has yet to use it at all. He sits on 200, as does Zach Falm. Fairburn's on 168. Such is on 139. Chilcutt on 157. Seeker 161. DeMage 117. Claiborne 116. Goyette at 158. You can see the rest of the drivers deeper in the field, and their percentages, or their usage, or rather lack thereof for some, as a number of drivers sit on 200. And we tend to like to joke that the drivers maybe forgot to bind the button, if you will, but I would think a number of these guys are familiar with it in the IndyCar, and they know that they need to put a button to get their boost.
For sure, and I think there's some strategy on when to use it and when not to use it, because ultimately some of these people are not really needing to use it to overtake people. The draft is plenty powerful in these cars. You see the big wings on them. The big, crazy underbody arrow punches a big hole in the air. And so, really, unless you need to use the overtake to defend, I don't really see much of a reason to blast it super early, possibly saving it to make some overtakes later on in the race when it matters most. We saw that with Logan Edwards during the heat race. I suspect we'll see it again as this race goes on. I want to highlight that we are on lap 10 now. We should start seeing some people ducking onto pit lane, as now you're allowed to start to pit for your mandatory tire change.
Yeah, we're riding on board with Zach Falm here as he's looking to chase back in Cody Claiborne for 8th here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see some guys start to come in early here, maybe take that as an opportunity to get a bit of a reset, get onto a fresh set of tires and work their way forward, potentially in a traffic-free area. It's difficult to get around here in close proximity of other cars, so I'd imagine it'd be a good opportunity to kind of space yourself away from some people and get an opportunity to build up as much time of a gap or make those overtakes in the pit lane.
Yes, but one thing I do want to note, Jacob, is the field is pretty spread out for the most part. So if you are an Alex Chilcutt, if you are a Logan Edwards or a Titus Sherlock, hitting now can potentially put you back out in the middle of traffic and not giving you the ability to benefit from the clean air. So if you're in the front of the field, you already have clean air. As the league admin has now announced that pits are open this lap, so we should start seeing people diving into pit lane shortly. But again, if you are someone who is out front, you already have the clean air, there's little incentive for you to dive onto pit lane. But if you are back in the pack, if you are someone like a Zach Falm, like a Dakota DeMage, as we see Christian Jasper in the 444 taking advantage of it as we speak, they were not running in clean air. They had where they had cars around them, potentially stopping them from getting a run, interrupting their line, interrupting their flow. And so now we'll see where that 444 machine comes out ultimately.
Yeah, we tried catching him in the pit lane there. Cameras aimed at the pit wall. Not the greatest angles in the world, but we saw kind of with that onboard shot with Falm, Claiborne was able to make it by DeMage for 7th, so he'll move him up one more. See if he's able to mount a charge. Now he'll be chasing down Nate Seifker about 4 seconds up the road from him. See if that makes any inroads here before he makes his stop as we work lap 11.
Griffin Yellen was also on pit lane as well, so there was someone else who was back in the pack. Looks like they have now made their mandatory pit stop as well. So Christian is out behind the 404 of Dan Morera.
Yeah, Jasper's on his own, running 13th right now, following the stop.
Drew Schutz is pitting in, taking advantage of that fact, trying to get themselves hopefully out in some clean air. That'll move Logan Edwards up into 4th position.
See Such go up on the jacks here. He'll exit. We'll kind of watch the pit out here because this is a somewhat interesting one as it curves around the first corner here, tucks to the inside of the course. You kind of come out right on the inside, kind of in the aim of traffic here. As Such is going to get out kind of on his own here. He'll come out in the 9th spot, put him first of the cars that have already pit now. We'll see if he's able to take advantage of fresh tires, maybe a bit of a mental reset here as we work just a little under halfway here.
Yes, and it seems like he has already actually come out. He's already come out in a position where he is right behind Zach Hall, right behind Nick Goyot and those people. So he might very quickly find himself in traffic, not able to quite take advantage of those fresh tires.
And a gap about 1 second up the road between Such to Falm. We'll see how quickly he closes in on the traffic ahead here, and maybe potentially how fast that traffic ahead opts to come down the pit lane. It may become a non-issue if, depending on the timing here, if either Such can make the passes down the long back straightaway here, or those cars peel off down the pit lane this time.
Yes, it looks like Sherlock and Chilcutt have not pitted. Neither has Jeremy Fairburn in 3rd place. Logan Edwards rounds the final corner and does not peel off either. Like I said, it seems to me that they are in clean air. They are not being interfered with. There's very little point in risking it right now. Ducking into the pit lane and potentially coming out in traffic like we saw with the car of Drew Schutz.
Yeah, and I think that's the gamble that a lot of drivers are going to opt to avoid near the front, right? You've already got the clean air. You've already got the track position, if you will. You kind of got to wait for everybody else to play their hand, if you will, as Such moves up to 9th, as I believe that's going to be Groff peeling off to the pit lane, rather.
Yes, and once again, just want to remind everyone that there is 2 classes in the field. If you see a P or an A next to people's names, P designates pro, A designates amateur. The highest ranked amateur in the field is Cody Claiborne in that 31 machine, currently residing in 6th place. Next ranked amateur is Nick Goyot in 10th. Nick Goyot started on pole after finishing 10th in the heat race.
Goyet on the pole. He settled back to 10th here. So we'll see if he can stay kind of where he's been situated the bulk of the evening tonight, right around the outer skirts of the top 10 here. He's working down the back straightaway towards the chicane now, rather. Working lap 13 of 25 here, and as drivers are starting to make some pit stops, we'll make a pit stop of our own and bring some messaging from the series sponsors here in the Sim Racing Warehouse and VRS. Sim Racing Warehouse is, if you're looking to save money with great prices and no sales tax, Sim Racing Warehouse is your U.S.-based shop for all your needs. And for a limited time, you could save 5% off with the coupon. Just type in SRW, capital SRW, house, lowercase house, in the coupon code section on checkout and save even more. Check them out, simracingwh.com for Sim Racing Warehouse. VRS, meanwhile, helps sim racers get faster by providing cutting-edge software and high-performance hardware built with insights from both real-life racers and top sim racing professionals. I can personally attest to their stuff. I've used just about all of it, and it's some quality stuff. Solid betting for the buck as well. Go check them out if you choose to look into some new sim racing hardware. And I believe you can actually buy some VRS gear from Sim Racing Warehouse. So a good double sponsorship for both partners here sponsoring the Formula Super Series.
Yes, and there was a scary moment just now. Gia Montel ultimately tried to let through Titus Sherlock in the tightest part of the track. Nearly caught the wall. Sherlock had to do well to avoid. As Sherlock has yet to pit, neither has Alex Chilcutt or Jeremy Fairburn, your top 3. All of them required to make a tire change pit stop. Pits are now open for them to do so.
Yeah, we're watching back Montel run through this slow section, working towards that chicane here. You can see Sherlock just behind him here. Oh, Sherlock catches him quick, just at the wrong time. Montel going to skirt out towards the wall, trying to let Sherlock on through on the outside. Sherlock will get through there, but that was a very close call for the race leader who's been dominating this race, and that could take you out in an instant navigating lap traffic here.
For sure, it's very difficult. Again, with the amateur and pro classes, there's going to be a difference in pace between those drivers, and getting caught out like that can definitely happen. So just staying mentally prepared, not letting yourself wander too much as you navigate a race, especially when you're dominant as Tyler Sherlock has been, is incredibly difficult. And so hats off to the driver of the 311 Eclipse machine, and hats off to the 7 machine for just sticking it out and just keeping at it, because ultimately you only improve by trying and keeping going, and ultimately we respect never say die attitude.
Yeah, you gotta get the laps in one way or another, and it's never a bad thing to kind of just drive your pace, drive your race, if you will, and get the laps in to try to learn the track, learn the car, potentially a new combo, new one or the other, maybe both for the driver of the 7 machine, and you gotta just kind of put yourself out there a little bit, take those gambles, take those risks, and put your proverbial money where your proverbial mouth is, and get out there and drive the darn car.
For sure, and ultimately, just seat time is so critical to finding pace, finding time, and building confidence. In a downforce car like this, confidence is everything.
Yeah, we saw Such make the pass on Zach Falm for 7th. Such is the first car to have made it down the pit lane. That'll be followed up by Jeff Groth just ahead of Dakota DeMage here, who's made his trip down the pit lane. He's getting passed by Crispin Jasper for 11th. Might just be a cold tires moment for him, trying to get the heat into those Yokohama tires. We'll see as these drivers start to navigate these opening couple laps on the pit lane here, what they start to experience is the first time.
Jeremy Fairbairn's in the pits.
That'll be one of the leaders now. He'll get off the pit lane here and rejoin the field.
Yes, this Logan Edwards is in as well. Oh, Logan Edwards has damage. Logan Edwards is out. What has happened to the Luke Mansky Esports machine?
Ooh. Yeah, that car is obliterated. Did he make potentially contact with the pit lane wall?
No.
Oh, goodness.
Goodness, no. Looks like Jihad Mattel just had an issue of his own, spun, trying to recover the car, ultimately came back onto the racing line, got drilled by Sarah Guerrera, and with nowhere to go, Logan Edwards just gets clipped. Both of those cars, day done.
Yeah, unfortunate break for Edwards as he was running well inside the top 10 for certain. Would have been a good night for him, kind of getting familiar with the machine, but getting cut short here due to that very unfortunate set of circumstances. Just nowhere to go for the driver of the Luke Mansky Racing Esports machine.
For sure. Just tough break ultimately for Logan Edwards and Sarah Guerrera. Sarah was having a difficult race, had lost their front wing, decided to wait it out till their mandatory pit stop to get it fixed. So they only had to pit once, and ultimately had that happen to them. So unfortunate for both drivers, unfortunate for the number 7 machine as well. As Titus Sherlock is once again back out front. They have yet to pit, and neither has Alex Chilcutt. Sherlock is going purple while still on those older tires. So perhaps there isn't really much impetus for him to be pitting.
Well, I think some of it, too, might just be that he's gotten comfortable on this set of tires. He's going to extend it as long as he can. As far as we're aware, there's not a mandatory window in which you have to take the tires. He could come down on the final lap and come in and take those tires, maybe splash and bash it if he needs to get some gas into that SF23, but certainly making do as he's 9 seconds clear of Alex Chilcutt in second, working his way through the lap traffic there.
Right, and I want to note that Jeremy Fairburn, through all that chaos, I don't want to lose track of him. He came out in 5th place, ahead of Drew Schutz. Drew Schutz ultimately 1.7 seconds behind. Possible that she's lost time due to having to fight people. Ultimately, also could be that Fairburn had a slow stop, but ultimately Cody Claiborne sitting in fourth and Nate Seifert is in third. Both drivers need to pit. Claiborne is your amateur class leader.
Yeah, Fairburn's the first car to have made it down the pit lane in the 5th spot. Such would be the second one, and then you've got Zach Fallman and Goyette still yet to pit, and then pretty much the bulk of the field behind them has made their stop, barring Barrett Wolf down in 13th. We'll see. Actually, he might have already made his stop early on in the going, so we'll see if he has to come down later on as well. But starting to get kind of into crunch time here as we're working well over halfway here. We'll get laps to go up on the screen as we're working lap 18 of 25 here in the feature event from Miami.
Right, we are entering the final 11 minutes of this 40-minute feature race, Jacob. Sherlock has yet to pit. Really not much incentive for him to pit other than the fact it's mandatory. So he can take it at his leisure. He's currently got some clear track. 3 seconds to the nearest lap car, and ultimately well clear of Chilcutt, who is 8 seconds behind. Very little pressure, just got to maintain focus for that 3-1-1 Eclipse competition machine.
I'm going to give some credit to Zach Falm here. We're kind of watching off the back of Drew Such here. And he's caught back to Such on old tires while Such is on relatively fresh ones. Such pitting just 6 laps ago. And Falm's kind of hang tough on the old tires, trying to stay as close as he can, maybe once he makes that trip down the pit lane to maintain the track position here.
For sure, if you can kind of gain time by drafting, especially down these long straightaways, as you see, it looks like Falm going to try and maybe set up a move here. Dives down the inside. That number 20 pink machine runs way wide, definitely overshot it a little bit. But he is going to dive onto pit lane, take that pit stop now. If he can gain track position or gain time by doing all that and staying out and staying behind a fast driver like Schutz, that will ultimately help him maintain track position over the people that he was fighting, like a Cody Claiborne, like a Griffin Yellen, and the other people around him, like Nick Goyette.
Yeah, Claiborne will join him down the pit lane as well, I believe.
And Claiborne is now back out, having done their pit stop. Coming out behind by about 2 seconds of Nick Goyette, who is second place in the amateur class. Now move him up to the amateur class lead. Goyette has yet to pit, though.
Yeah. You've got Sherlock, Chilcutt, Seifker, and Goyette, the first 4 cars yet to pit. I believe they're kind of the last 4 cars yet to pit here tonight. We'll see when Goyette opts to come down the pit lane as the leader of the amateur class in P6 there. But then, your podium runners have yet to come down the pit lane, and we're running out of time. We're running out of laps for those drivers to do that.
Yes, and we see Alex Chilcutt had gone purple that previous lap. So Chilcutt definitely possibly finding some time, maybe perhaps a little too late as we are in the closing stages of this race. Again, both drivers need to pit. Perhaps they're trying to think of doing that Schumacher thing. Oh, what is going on up here? It looks like the car of Barrett Wolf was rejoining. A scary moment to think about for if you were tied to Sherlock, as I was watching him on my screen, Jacob. But if you're Sherlock, possibly you're thinking of doing a Schumacher Silverstone, I believe it was 98 or 2000 when he had to serve a penalty and served it right before crossing the finish line.
Yeah, I believe that was recently recreated in the F1 Esports series. Don't recall the driver. I want to say it was Jarno Otmir, but I can't really remember. There's been recreations of that event in recent virtual history, but Sherlock maybe opting to take as many laps as he can on this first set of tires, just given the gap he's got built up. It's come down just a little bit. Sits just under 9 seconds. Will kind of creep back up there as we navigate the backstretch here, but he might opt to do something crazy like a last lap pit stop, if you will.
Well, come to think of it, Jacob, a thing that we have seen is that him and Chilcutt have been plenty quick on those older tires. It's possible there just isn't a lot of fall off, and so if you're ultimately not experiencing that fall off, you might as well pit later. You'll have less fuel on those newer tires when the tires will be even a little bit fresher, and that might help you get a fastest lap, which gets you some bonus points, but also nets you a cash prize as well in this league. So there's plenty of motivation to possibly stretch your first set of tires to maybe secure a little bit of extra pace at the end to guarantee yourself a little couple bonus points. Sherlock definitely knows that that's vital, as he lost this championship last year. He was runner-up by a single point over losing track of my words here, Jacob. But he ultimately finished second in the championship by a single point. So every little helps.
Yeah, Yao Di Gregorio took the championship home last season by that single point. We're looking at one thing that isn't falling off is the track temperature, as it's risen over the course of the event here from Miami up to 106 now. Wind has changed direction. We're now southeast 13 miles an hour, so that's potentially a change in how these drivers have to tackle the course here. I know that there's been a number of situations that we've seen across the iRacing service where kind of that wind direction can very much drastically change how particular corners are handled. As Jasper and Fallen fighting for 8th, are going to go nearly side by side into turn number 1 here, and they'll be fighting through the marina section here.
Yes, I was actually about to call this battle out, as we see Fallen in that pink machine looking for any way by. Looks to be taking a little outside line as they head into this complex section here, left, right, left, and then there's a complex braking zone here. You can really be brave on it, possibly execute a move here, but Fallen not close enough as they head out onto this long back straightaway.
Yeah, Fallen kind of falling back just a little bit here. Still within about half a second, so he's maybe got an opportunity to mount a charge on the button at some point. I believe he's still got his cooldown active for another 30 seconds here, so he'll have to wait until the back straightaway here to use that. But the draft here is still super, super strong here at Miami.
Right, and Sherlock has now made his pit stop. Sherlock is all good. So has Alex Chilcutt. They waited as long as they could. We only have just under 5 minutes left in this race. So both drivers looking to get as heat in those tires as quickly as possible and start trying to maybe set fastest lap of the race again.
Yeah, the gap between the two is just around 8 seconds now, so that pit cycle did kind of play a bit of a factor into the overall gap between those two drivers. Potentially an opportunity for that to get closer before this race is over, as we still watch outboard with Jasper and Fallen fighting for that 8th spot as they're side by side heading towards the start-finish line.
Yes, and another battle I want to highlight is Cody Claiborne in the amateur class leader. He is currently on the back of Nate Seifert, and that is over 5th place in the top 5 as well. So there's some battles happening now as we get into the closing stages of these races, even though it has been a dominant performance from the Eclipse competition machine of Titus Sherlock.
Yeah, Sherlock had to work his way from 10th back to the front here following the invert from the heat. He made his way up to 2nd after the first lap, and once he made the move for the lead, he hasn't left it. But still plenty of battling to go throughout the field here, and that's always something that I love to highlight when we get up here and get to watch the great action. Is it may not be, you know, the tightest battle for the lead each and every week in every single race, but you get quality battles from the top to the bottom, and that's part of the great thing that iRacing and sim racing has to offer. Is you've got a fight for everyone, if you will.
Yep, no matter what your skill level, there will always be people for you to be competing with and competing around. Whether it's in the IndyCar, whether it's in the Super Formula as we see here, whether it's in GT machinery, there is always someone for you to be racing with. There is always excitement happening here on iRacing, and there's almost always action here on P1 Broadcasting.
Yeah, Seifert had a bit of a moment in the chicane there. He seemingly all about stalled the momentum of that car as he bobbled off the chicane curb, and he'll be under fire from Cody Claiborne as they head to the start-finish line here.
Right, and Jeff Groff has also snuck into that battle as well, and that's the 7th place car, so battles all throughout the lower portion of the top 10 and into the top 5.
Yeah, Seifker's still having to serve his overtake system recharge here. He's got about another 80 seconds on that before he can hit the button again. Claiborne and Groff, though, behind him are able to hit that button whenever they so choose. So they'll likely opt to do that if they can get back within striking distance here, but they're going to go side by side for 6th.
Yes, as Claiborne runs wide, Groff has the inside line into this complex corner, and Groff will take the position over Claiborne, capitalizing on that mistake from the purple 31 machine.
Yeah, but Claiborne's not going to let Groff just get away here. He kind of hung tough on the inside here, and he's back in the draft working towards the end of the backstretch here. He'll look to the outside.
And it looks like Jeff Groff was using the push to pass to defend from that move. So now this puts Claiborne in an advantageous position because, again, they're coming through this tight stadium section. If he get a good run, he has the ability to hit the button, whereas Jeff Groff does not.
Yeah, and Siefker still has yet the ability to hit the button himself, so Claiborne's the only one of these three that can get on that thing, get the extra power. He'll do that now. Looks like he might just use it to try to keep pace or keep in the draft of those cars ahead here, but that's kind of the game these drivers have to play, especially late in the going as we're getting to the final minute of the race. Oh,
Claiborne misses the braking zone. Quite a bit there. Mistake from Claiborne. Ultimately, no harm, no foul to the cars around him, but that's going to eat up gobs of time as Groff looks around the outside. We're in the final minute of this race, Jacob. Groff and Siefker, the most exciting battle on track. Sherlock well up the road.
Yeah, we will get one more lap to go here following this one, but this battle for the 5th spot's heated up late in the going between Siefker and Groff.
Yes, Jeff Groff has really come on strong in the latter parts of the race, whereas Cody Claiborne seems to have faded a little bit. Maybe just the ability to drive at the limit over a long distance is really difficult. Ultimately requires a lot of mental toughness, physical toughness, ultimately just being comfortable in a good environment.
Yeah, they'll go side by side at the end of the backstretch. White flag's in the air for Titus Sherlock. He's 11 seconds clear of Chilcutt for second, but we've still got this battle for 5th here as they'll navigate towards the backstretch here, and we'll watch and see if Siefker's able to make a move. Groff gets on the button. He'll look to defend to the inside here as they head off into the hairpin to conclude the lap here. We look back, the battle between Jasper and Falm has come to fruition. They're side by side heading into the final corner here. Not quite able to get any moves made there, but they're battling for position yet here still. As we work the final lap of the race, we'll cut to Titus Sherlock as he makes the cruise on the back half of the course here. He'll head towards that chicane once more. Ooh, big bounce there for him. But he keeps it pointed the right direction as he's trying to make it by lap traffic here. He'll get in the tow. Look to the outside here. Try to clear that machine.
Yes, that's Griffin Yellen in P13 that Sherlock has worked his way around as he is going to come off that final hairpin through the last little left-right. And he is going to take victory here in the Formula Super Series. Chilcutt has the fastest lap of the race. So it's bonus points for Chilcutt as he comes across the line in P2. Jeremy Fairbrand is going to streak across the line in P3 in the second Eclipse competition machine in that number 67. Followed next by Drew Schutz, should be coming through as he rounds the final hairpin in that orange number 28 machine. And then the battle for 5th, Siefker locks up as he tries to pass the 25 of Jeff Groff. Groff gets away clean. He's going to come home in P5, take the final top 5 spot, give it to the number 25 machine. Nate Siefker recovers and finishes to 6th. Christian Jasper finishes P7. Zach Falm finishes P9. Cody Claiborne comes home in 8th.
Mage will cross the line to round out the top 10, and we've still got cars trying to make their way to the start-finish line. Goyette and Morera within 1 second of each other. Those will be the last 2 cars on the lead lap. And I think that'll be the last of the lead lap cars. There's still Kyle Allen circulating in 15th, getting his way back to the start-finish line, I believe. We'll watch Allen work the back straightaway here. Give him his due in the 999 machine. That was quite the explosive finish between a lot of those cars working 5th through 10th here tonight.
For sure. What a dominant performance from the Eclipse competition driver, Titus Sherlock. Seemed to just have the whole track on lock, taking every risk and managing to get away with it here during both the sprint and the feature race. Excellent start, excellent pace. Well done to him, as well as the rest of our podium finisher and our top amateur, Cody Claiborne.
Yeah, and let's get through the entire finishing results here from the main event here for the Formula Super Series at Miami. Their debut round as Sherlock hits the wall trying to do some donuts here for us. And we will run through those the fun way. We got Titus Sherlock winning over Alex Chilcutt, gap just under 12 seconds. Jeremy Fairburn will be 3rd. Drew Such will be 4th. Jeff Groff will round out the top 5 ahead of Nate Siefker. That battle kind of went to a head right away late in the going there. Christian Jasper will be 7th. Cody Claiborne 8th for the amateur class. He'll be 1st for that. Zach Falm will be 9th. We got Dakota DeMage rounding out the top 10. Nick Goyette in 11th. Dan Marrera in 12th. Griffin Yellen 13th. Pedro Mojica will be 14th. Kyle Allen will be 15th. Barrett Wolf 16th. Logan Edwards, following that incident late in the going there, will finish 17th. Sarah Guerrero, likewise involved in that incident, 18th. Yaya Montel, the last car in that incident, 19th. Kevin Tomba, Logan Spath, Alex Berg, and Byron Daly all out with some sort of incident tonight. Many of those very early on in the going. Tough break for those drivers. And I got to say, I think we saw ourselves quite the debut for the Formula Super Series here on P1 Broadcasting.
For sure, we have seen some amazing battles, some amazing dominant performance again from the likes of some of the people we'll be about to talk to. Your Titus Sherlock, your Alex Chilcutt's, Cody Claiborne's. So let's get into some of that, shall we, Jacob?
Yeah, let's see who we've got for the broadcast booth here. I believe we've got everybody here, so we'll have to hunt down the machine of Jeremy Fairburn. We can find him out on the course, get him. See if we can get to that machine. I believe I've fallen all the way back to. There we go. We get some action of somebody here. She will roll this back a little bit further. There we go. And then we'll get his machine up on the screen. There's Mr. Fairburn. We'll bring him on up here. Jeremy Fairburn, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yes. How you doing?
Well, it was quite the up and down evening for you. Had to work your way back through the field here to work your way back onto the podium. Kind of walk us through this race. It seemed like it was a very tricky track and a very tricky car to kind of put together here in Miami.
Yeah, just a combination of still learning the car. Not quite my track. I made a few too many mistakes today. That cost me a fight for the win, and also just a bit of a lack of pace. But I'll work on it. I'll watch some video and see what I can do to improve.
Yeah, kind of talk us through what you feel like are the big sticking or big standout points with this car in particular. It's new for us. It's new for the channel to kind of see this machine in action. It's very high speed. We kind of cited early on in the show that it's about the second fastest thing, barring the Formula One entries here on the iRacing service in terms of navigating road courses here on the sim. Kind of walk us through what you've found so far learning this SF23.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the car, but the biggest learning curve for me was the braking, especially coming from the Indy car. It's hard to find the peak and the limit on the brakes, and that's just something I was still experimenting with even throughout the race. I couldn't quite figure it out in practice. Um, so yeah, sometimes I'll blow a corner, and then other times I'll overslow. Just couldn't quite find the limit there.
Yeah, we've certainly found, at least in the few laps that both of us have done in this machine, is that kind of the aerodynamic grip of this thing makes it very tricky to understand just how much you need to or not need to slow the car up in those lower speed corners. Sophie, what do you got for Jeremy here tonight?
Oh, Jeremy, we saw that you had that mental mistake where you needed to ultimately you kept out of the wall there in the final hairpin. How did you manage to reset and kind of recover so that you ultimately did not lose any more track position, was able to benefit from the misfortune of others like Logan Edwards?
Yeah, just misjudged the braking a bit. Had to keep it out of the wall there, and then just kind of had a mental reset. Just tried not to overthink it. Tried to get back as much as I could, without overdriving or making too many mistakes. I mean, that did absolutely cost me a fight for the win. Um, but yeah, just a mental reset and just trying not to overdrive and keeping my calm.
Well, keeping your calm, you did, collected as well, worked your way back onto the podium following a very eventful race for yourself. Friends, family, sponsors, Jeremy, floor is yours.
Yeah, shout out to Eclipse Competition. Thanks to all the boys over there for the support and just loving every moment of driving with these guys. Um, Mom, dad, of course. Thanks for watching, and thank you guys.
Well, thanks, Jeremy, for a quality performance, a quality race here from you. Good to see you up here on the podium. We'll catch you for the next round. I don't even remember where we're going. Sophie, where are we going next week? Do you know?
I believe it's Sonoma.
Yeah, I believe our next round for the Formula Super Series is actually, yes, it is the Sonoma Sports Car Course, a sports car alternate.
Ooh, that'll be an interesting one. We'll catch you there from Sonoma, Jeremy. Go celebrate with your team here tonight. Good run.
Thank you. Take care.
And that'll do it for third place finisher Jeremy Fairburn. We'll get Alex Chilcutt up on here in this nice BMW M Sport inspired livery he's got going on here. Alex Chilcutt, Jake Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
I gotcha.
Well, you kind of played second fiddle here tonight, kind of the bulk of the night in some regards, barring a bit of a contact-filled sprint race for you. Kind of walk us through how you managed to work your way onto the podium here tonight in the quite eventful race we here had in Miami.
Yeah, the sprint was pretty tough. I got hit a couple times there. I haven't looked at the replay, so I don't want to call anybody out, but it was definitely some good hard racing. And then going into the main event there, just trying to stay clean. I had a very aggressive start, but nice and clean, and then just follow the Eclipse guys through. I mean, Titus was unbelievably quick. I didn't really expect to catch him, so I just keep it clean and happy with the P2 there.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like the battles were fierce throughout the kind of the middle portion of the field. We saw battles from like fifth to ninth kind of play out all the way until the end of the race here. Seemed like a very up and down race for a lot of drivers. Kind of walk us through what it's like to have to battle early on and kind of settle into rhythms throughout the race, especially when you've got, a mandatory stop partway through and just so many laps to get through in this very high speed, very high commitment track here in Miami.
Yeah, the track is definitely quite difficult. I would say that kind of awkward chicane was quite the challenge in these cars. They don't really like the bumps that much. I drove Indy cars quite a bit coming into this, so it's a very different beast, and it takes a lot of mental strength just to kind of stay on top of the car, and then add on top of that, you got people racing you quite hard. This car seems to be pretty good for racing. You get a strong toe. The overtake mode is super powerful. So yeah, it's quite intense, but a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, a lot of different elements and tools that the drivers have to kind of keep account of. That overtake system, the draft being as strong as it is, not to mention just how much speed you're able to carry, the amount of mental focus that requires. Very, very tricky in these high downforce machines. Sophie, what do you got for Alex tonight?
Well, Alex, you won the Formula Indy Series Championship, and you're off to a strong start here. Can you kind of walk through the difference of adjusting from the Dallara IR18 to the Super Formula car here in the Formula Super Series?
Yeah, this car feels a lot heavier to me, like a real beast of a vehicle, and at the same time, it has more downforce. So it's definitely an interesting experience. It's very hard to adapt. My first few laps in practice, I'm like, okay, well, hang on a minute. This is a completely different. So the all the practice that I've had running the IndyCar, I don't feel like it really correlates very much with this one. You also have to take care of the tires a little bit less actually with this one. I think the IndyCar, if you saved your tires and drove smooth, you could have a solid result. But with this car, I'm kind of struggling to fire up those tires and get them in the right window. So that'll be something to work on going forward, and hopefully I can make a run for the championship here.
Well, certainly a strong start, even in spite of trying to get familiar with the machine here for you, Alex. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody you'd like to shout out, floor is yours.
First and foremost, shout out to you for broadcasting. I appreciate what you guys do. Shout out to the league admins for organizing this and making it happen. I'm looking forward to the season, and hopefully we'll have some more good races here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the rest of the season. We're, I believe, back next week with Sonoma Sports Car Alt, which I'm not exactly quite sure what configuration that is, but that'll hopefully be quite the spectacle given the very flowy nature of that track. So we'll catch you for round 2 there, Alex.
All right, see ya.
And that'll do it for P2. Alex Chilcutt, glad to have him up here in the booth. And we'll bring up the dominant force of Titus Sherlock in that 311 Eclipse competition machine. Titus, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yep, gotcha.
Well, you started it about as deep as you could after winning the heat there and made it up to the second spot basically by the conclusion of lap 1. Kind of walk us through the very quick charge you made to the front and then the very, very dominant effort you had on display here in the feature event here from Miami.
Yeah, just a really good race. Just had a lot of speed. Didn't really expect that, but it went really well. So happy with that. Yeah, like you said, starting 10th, the goal was just to kind of survive the first lap when you're deep in the fields on iRacing. You know, light touches can cause damage and ruin your day. So, yeah, made some good moves, got up to second, chased down Drew for the lead, got around him, and then just kind of hit my marks the best I could and put that gap. Didn't make it easy for myself in the sprint by just going straight off at turn 1. Besides that, it was a good day.
Yeah, little mistakes and little contacts early on in the going can certainly set a tone, set a bit of a mark, if you will, on the rest of the race if it goes awry. But certainly something you kept under control very, very well tonight. Kind of walk us through what it's like to have to cut clear through the field and then get to the front, and then maybe have to do that more and more with lap traffic and the like over the course of this track and this race at this track in particular, just given how much commitment you have to make to each and every corner around here.
Yeah, you got to pick your moments wisely, especially on the first lap when everyone's on cold tires and everyone's, a little excited. You got to kind of pick and choose when it's worth it to go for it and when it's not. And then once everyone's in the groove, you just have to set up, kind of everyone talks about setting up corners before. You got to set up the exits on the straightaways here because they're so long. If you can get a good toe and get close enough, it's not too hard to pass here, especially into the hairpin in the second to last corner. So it's just got to be careful on the first lap, but after that, being aggressive and just kind of cutting through the field as fast as you can.
Well, that controlled aggression certainly got you pretty far here. Obviously, a very dominant performance, near 12-second gap to P2. Sophie, what do you got for Titus tonight?
Well, Titus, it seemed that you just had this place on lock. It seemed that you were using as much of the track as possible, and you were really, really abusing the curve there through that chicane section before the long back straightaway. Can you just walk us through like how you find all the little ways you can exploit the rather generous track limits here? That just don't want to give away your secrets of speed, but it did seem like you were really taking advantage of everything.
Yeah, of course. I really actually enjoy this track because they're very lenient with track limits. It's quite frustrating on other kind of F1 style tracks when you just get 1Xs everywhere. But here, I don't think I got a 1X the whole race. So, it's fun. You just got to experiment and practice and see how far you can take it. Obviously, the more you can cut an apex or the more you can use an exit, you can carry more speed. So, using that curb and that little chicane on the underpass is quite, quite risky. It's sometimes you hit it and you can glide right over it, and other times you hit it and it puts you up in the air quite high. So, you just kind of got to get in a good rhythm there. It's really just about hitting the mark exactly the same every single time, and just experimenting with that in practice and figuring out kind of what works and what doesn't.
Well, the experimentation certainly seemed to work. Put out a dominant performance for you here at Miami. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors, Titus. Floor is yours.
Yeah, of course. All the Eclipse boys, as always. Jeremy having a good race as well. Unfortunately, some of our drivers are missing this week for some real life commitments. But yeah, all the boys there having a lot of fun with them and going over data before the session goes up and seeing how we can improve off each other has been a lot of fun. So, and all of our partners in real life as well. Mosaic, ProGuard, the Destination Athlete, and of course all the league admins and everyone that does the broadcast and everyone that makes this whole thing possible. Because it's a lot of fun.
Well, quality performance from you here tonight, Titus. We'll catch you next week as we move on to Sonoma next week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That'll do it for the winner here tonight. And Sophie, I think we've got something special here on the channel with the Formula Super Series. Certainly a lot of action to be had, and I can't wait until we get to next week in Sonoma. That track, very, very tricky, even in lower horsepower cars, as I've experienced recently in the USF 2000s. What do you think we're in for with kind of working forward into these next couple weeks here with some of the very interesting and tricky tracks that we've got going on?
I think we're going to be once again in a high speed, high commitment course like we saw here in some of the opening sectors of Miami. And so I think that's going to create some interesting opportunities for people. If you make a slight mistake, slightly offline, you might get into the marbles. And they can make a mistake for making a mistake like that can give an opportunity for someone to pounce on you. But also, there are very few real heavy passing opportunities at Sonoma. So it's going to be a game of not making those mistakes so you don't get overtaken, but also trying to force a mistake. Also try to take advantage of the mistakes of others around you. So I think it's going to be a very strategic race that requires precision. But ultimately, it will be an exciting watch as we see these cars just really fly around some of these flowing, sweeping corners with all the downforce that the Super Formula has to offer.
Yeah, and I certainly think that like the likes of the hairpin, the uphill section, given that we're running the sports car version, kind of the cut to work your way towards that carousel corner is very, very tricky. We're going to see that play a huge factor in how drivers have to tackle that track. You have to slow up very, very quickly for it, working your way up the hill there, kind of having to basically park the car to get it turned back towards that carousel corner. And we've still got quite a number of very interesting tracks to get to this season. We'll follow up the Sonoma round 2 weeks after that from Motegi East, which will be interesting in its own right. Then you've got Watkins Glen, the Cup layout, alongside Magny Cours Grand Prix later on. That's just the first couple rounds of this very, very tricky Formula Super Series here on P1 Broadcasting. We want to thank everybody for tuning into our coverage here tonight. We'll thank the series sponsors in Sim Racing Warehouse and VRS once more. You can check them out in the links in the description. Provide some quality sim racing products, both hardware and software, and we thank them for their support of the Formula Super Series. We'll also thank those that all do the very, very difficult jobs all around the world that let us do the fun things that we do, like bring you the Formula Super Series here live on P1 Broadcasting. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, wherever you are in the world. You had to take time maybe watching the Snowball Derby. I mean, the Clash from Bowman Gray. They got sleet, snow. They got rain tires going on. It sounds like a grand old time down at the madhouse, if you will, but we had ourselves quite the time here in Miami. We'll catch you next week as the Formula Super Series heads to the Sonoma Sports Car Alternate Layout. Have a good night, everyone.